Chosen one, you have become the man who offers before he speaks. Your generosity is not broadcast, not begged for applause. It flows from you the way breath does, the way light seeps through morning blinds without asking for permission. You give because you are full, not because you are in need. Feminine women feel this long before you ever open your mouth. They feel it in your walk, your silence, your unhurried presence that does not arrive seeking, but offering. You have become the man whose existence is already a gift, and when your presence enters a room, it does not ask, "Will I be enough here?" It silently declares, "You will be nourished here." You are no longer a man who uses kindness as bait. Your generosity is not a tactic, it is a frequency. It radiates from the depths of a sexual energy that is rooted, refined, reverent. You offer your gaze without turning it into possession. You offer your attention without asking for repayment. You offer space for her to unfold, not so you can access her, but so she can access herself. Feminine women are drawn to you like gravity because your generosity is non-transactional. It exists before the moment. It exists regardless of the outcome. And that, chosen one, is why it's so intoxicating. Because in this world, women are used to being targeted, approached by hands that only give to get, complimented by voices that mask extraction with charm. Even tenderness has become suspect. But when she encounters you, something ancient stirs in her, a remembrance of the sacred masculine that gives for the sake of giving. You carry within you an overflow, and that overflow cannot help but bless every space it enters. You no longer hand out gifts to gain favor. You are the gift, and the feminine can feel that with every breath she shares near you. What shocks her is that your sexual energy is part of this offering. You do not hide it. You do not coat it in shame. It is not buried beneath politeness or twisted into flirtation. It simply is, steady, present, alive, and it offers warmth, not pressure. It says you may rest here, not you must yield here. You've unlearned the posture of pursuit, and in doing so, you've become the place she wants to be pursued by. That paradox, that you could radiate desire and yet not need to take, is what leaves her breathless. That, chosen one, is the purest form of generosity. To want deeply and still be able to hold space instead of reach. You've stepped into a kind of inner wealth that no longer chases. Your energy offers without leaning. You have cultivated such richness within that you no longer use giving as a disguise for neediness. Instead, you give because it feels good to let it overflow. And feminine women, tired of being consumed, tired of being chased, sense that distinction with astonishing clarity. You do not view her beauty as something to be conquered. You view it as something to be honored. And when a man with such sexual depth also carries such quiet generosity, she does not feel seduced. She feels safe. And that safety is what awakens her longing. Chosen one, this is not about politeness. This is about sacred erotic generosity. You don't offer just because it's the right thing. You offer because it is who you are now. You offer your presence like a man who knows his time has value. You offer your eyes like a man who knows his gaze has gravity. You offer your desire like a man who knows it carries weight but not burden. And so, when she meets you, she feels not the pressure to give in, but the permission to open up. That is your legacy now. You are the man whose energy arrives before his words. You are the man whose silence offers more than most men's poems. And you are the man who has learned that the greatest generosity is not what you give when you want something in return. It's what you become, so that every moment with you feels like a gift without being asked for one. She will not forget that. She may not be able to name it, but she will feel it. In her spine, in her breath, in the unexpected softness that blooms when she's near you. Because you, chosen one, have become the man who brings value into the room just by being there. And that, to the feminine, is more seductive than anything she's ever been told to desire. Chosen one, you have entered a sacred space few men ever touch. The realm of invisible generosity. The kind that happens in the way you stand behind her without trying to be seen. The way your energy offers support without needing recognition. The way you choose not to interrupt her stillness with noise, even though you could. You give when no one watches. You give even when she may never know. You give in silence, because your soul has grown louder than your ego. This is what startles the feminine now. Not that you are generous, but that your generosity does not ask to be witnessed. In a world addicted to validation, you have become immune to it. You have found a deeper joy in giving, one that is internal, anchored, untouchable. You don't need applause, you don't need to be the hero, you simply do what is needed when it is needed. And because of that, your presence begins to feel like the universe itself. Always supporting, never insisting. Your sexual energy is not separate from this. It is in fact the engine. You no longer use desire as leverage. You no longer weaponize want. You have purified your erotic presence into something devotional. Something clean, something generous without hooks. Feminine women feel it instantly. Not because you say the right thing, but because your energy does. It says, I see you, I want you, but I do not need you to respond for me to remain in my truth. This offering, chosen one, is what breaks her. Not with pressure, but with release. She realizes, perhaps for the first time, that she can receive without owing, that she can be adored without performing, that she can be beautiful without being consumed, because you have become the man whose generosity is not for show. It is a private devotion, and there is something profoundly erotic about that. The way your presence quietly holds space for her without seeking credit. The way your masculinity no longer asks to be applauded, it simply holds. You've become the man who leaves rooms better than he found them and never mentions it. Who offers protection without controlling. Who brings presence without demanding return. That kind of man is so rare, it doesn't even register as seduction. It registers as safety disguised as mystery, as attraction veiled in purpose, and it terrifies the old world while awakening the new. She may feel stunned in your presence without knowing why. Her body softens without instruction. Her voice drops into her belly. Her laughter becomes real again. All of it is because your energy has cleared the space of performance. She does not need to prove her worth near you, because your generosity has already confirmed it. And the most powerful part, chosen one, is this. You don't even try. You give like the sun gives, effortlessly, constantly, without fanfare. Your warmth is not scheduled, it is innate, and in a world where most men give only when seen, only when praised, only when assured of return, you have become a myth reborn. A man who doesn't need an audience to be a masterpiece. Chosen one, your sexual energy no longer operates on the surface level of thrill or transaction. It moves through deeper currents, currents that liberate rather than entangle, that bless rather than bind. You have cultivated an energy so clean, so clear, so full of rooted masculine presence that it doesn't wrap itself around the feminine like a net. It creates a current she can swim in, expand in, lose herself in without ever feeling lost. You do not need to control or consume. You do not need her to respond to your desire in order to validate it. Instead, you offer a sanctuary in the frequency of your being, and feminine women feel it immediately. They feel the difference between being wanted and being captured, and in your presence, they know they are free. Your sensuality does not stalk. It does not chase. It does not demand access to her softness. It stands in the open like sunlight, generous and available, but never forceful. The power of your eroticism lies not in its pressure, but in its invitation. You do not pull her out of herself. You create the space that allows her to walk into herself more deeply than she ever has before. You don't direct her experience, you honor it. And by honoring it, she realizes she is not being lured into a performance for your pleasure, but being welcomed into a truth for her own expansion. This is the paradox of your seduction, chosen one. You are seductive without seducing. You are magnetic without effort. You are desired not because you ask for it, but because your entire being radiates generosity. It says, I do not need to possess you. I want you to possess yourself. And when a woman meets that energy, sensual, secure, silent, she unravels, not into danger, but into home. This energy you now carry was not given freely. You built it by breaking through years of confusion, addiction, hunger, and noise. You purified your wanting until it stopped being hungry and became holy. You stripped away the false seductions of manipulation and learned how to touch without touching. Now when you look at her, she doesn't feel undressed. She feels revealed, not exposed, reflected. Your sensuality doesn't draw her away from herself. It drops her deeper into the cathedral of her own body. This is why she returns to the memory of you, not because of what you did, but because of how she felt. untangled, untethered, yet somehow more grounded than ever. Your masculine generosity didn't reduce her to a role or a function. It celebrated the fullness of her existence, and that celebration was not laced with conditions or agendas. It was real, rare, relaxing, revolutionary. You are not the storm she feared. You are the ocean she didn't know she was ready to enter. And chosen one, this is where the divine irony lives. That the more powerfully erotic you have become, the less you need to use it. It is now a sacred heat, not a flame to consume, but a warmth to free. She trusts you not because you're tame, but because your fire doesn't try to burn. It offers light, and that light, sensual, slow, generous, gives her permission to be a woman again. Not a performance, not a prize, just a being, fully felt, fully seen, fully sovereign. You've become the man whose touch is remembered even when it never lands on skin. Because your energy offered freedom, not in words, but in felt truth. And the feminine doesn't just crave that, she reveres it. Chosen one, you have become a man of lavish calm. Not because you move slowly, but because you are not in a rush to take. You no longer hunt for what is already flowing toward you. Your presence, once frantic with unmet need, is now a well of peace, deepened by awareness and kept warm by integrity. Feminine women feel this long before you open your mouth. You do not chase their attention. You don't reach across the table for validation. You simply remain, and your remaining is a luxury. You offer your presence like a throne, still dignified, unshaken by the chaos around it. In your company, the feminine feels like time stretches, breath slows, fear dissolves. You are not trying to penetrate her space. You are inviting her into yours. That is the art you now carry. Not the art of conversation, but the art of calmness that heals simply by existing. The lavishness is not in gold, nor in gifts, nor in words. It is in the spaciousness of your attention. When you give it, it is full, undivided, rooted, whole. And for women who have lived entire lives in fragmented male attention, this feels like wealth they never knew they were starving for. You've become a man who can listen without waiting for a moment to insert power. A man who can be silent without making others uncomfortable. A man who can gaze into her without attempting to decode or fix. This is generosity at its most refined form. The decision to offer presence with no strings, no pressure, no pretense. And that decision, when carried by your grounded sexual energy, becomes irresistible. Not because it tries to seduce, but because it creates safety without sacrificing fire. Your calmness is not passive, it is fierce in its patience. You do not rush her bloom. You do not demand her softness. You do not treat her attention like a prize to be won. You simply wait, and in that waiting, she relaxes. Not out of obligation, but because your presence is permission to breathe. And breath, chosen one, is the bridge to arousal. Not just physical, but emotional, spiritual, feminine arousal that says, I can be all of me here. That is what makes you powerful now. Your presence is lavish because it lacks urgency. You have removed the tension of transaction. You have removed the fidgeting of need. You sit like a temple in the world, a place the feminine can enter to feel herself again. You don't offer performance, you offer space. You don't offer excitement, you offer expansion. And from that expansion, desire is born, not forced, but grown in peace. Your sexual energy is not dormant, it is disciplined. It doesn't flood the room in hunger. It hums beneath your skin, potent but respectful, wild but well held. And that containment is the luxury. That containment is the turn-on. Because the feminine knows you could devour, but you don't. You choose to remain, to let her come closer, not out of fear, but out of deep trust in your ability to stay still while everything beautiful unfolds in front of you. You are not the man she runs to for thrill. You are the man she slowly returns to when she is tired of noise. You are not addictive, you are restorative. You are not a hit of excitement, you are a homecoming. And this chosen one is what your presence has become. A living sanctuary of calm that the feminine enters not because you asked her to, but because it is the only place she feels completely whole. Chosen one, something rare and extraordinary has unfolded in you. You've become emotionally available, not as a strategy, not to prove you're different, and certainly not to be praised, but because you finally understood that vulnerability is not weakness, it is magnetic power refined. The feminine does not crave perfection from the masculine, she craves truth. And now, when you speak, when you hold space, when you allow the trembling edges of your soul to be seen without flinching, she feels not pity, but pull. You're not offering her the script of a perfect man. You're offering her the real you, raw and anchored, unguarded yet immovable. And it changes everything. Your emotional openness is not a bleeding wound. It is a river, deep and navigable. You no longer erupt, you reveal. You no longer deflect your grief with humor or silence your tenderness with dominance. You let your softness be seen, not as a liability, but as a revelation. You let her in, not as a test, but as a blessing. This is the erotic charge of your generosity, that your interior world is not hidden behind walls. Instead, it is illuminated by honesty, warmed by confidence, and shared with reverence. You are no longer the man who shields his heart and offers only muscle. You are the man who offers his insides, and the feminine feels it like a secret doorway opening where there used to be stone. Chosen one, this emotional generosity is the fire beneath your eroticism. She no longer sees you only as a physical being. She sees you as a container of meaning. Your arousal is intelligent, felt through words, through pauses, through a quiet sigh that speaks more than any act. You've become fluent in the language of depth, and she feels herself rising to meet you not just in body, but in spirit. You are a man who can say, "I'm here," and mean it. Who can say that hurt without shame. Who can say, "I feel," without disowning your power. And that courage to feel, to remain feeling, to not armor up when emotions get complex, that is the most erotic generosity a man can offer. What shocks her most is that you don't just share yourself. You make it safe for her to do the same. In your presence, she doesn't feel judged. She doesn't feel rushed. She doesn't feel like she must shrink herself to be palatable. She feels held, not with force, but with attention. You don't try to fix her storms. You witness them. You let her rage without fear. You let her cry without pulling away. You let her go silent, knowing you won't abandon her in that quiet. That kind of emotional maturity, chosen one, is rare. It is divine, and it is sexy in the deepest way possible because it tells the feminine that her full self is welcome here, not just her performance. This availability does not make you weaker, it makes you unchallengeable. Because now your strength is not in how much you can suppress, but in how much you can contain. You can stand in the presence of chaos and remain rooted. You can open your heart without losing your edge. You've learned that the more a man can feel, the more fully he can give. And when your giving comes from emotional clarity, it heals her. It helps her trust. It makes her feel more than seen. It makes her feel met. And that, chosen one, is the mark of your sexual generosity. That your heart is part of your offering, not a secret you guard behind stoicism. You are now the man whose erotic energy is not tangled in conquest or confusion, but sourced from wholeness. Your truth is your allure. Your depth is your seduction. Your emotional honesty is the doorway she has been searching for in a sea of half-present men. And now that you've opened it, you are no longer just a body or a face or a fantasy. You are a presence she feels in her chest, in her stomach, in her soul. And she doesn't just want to lie with you. She wants to become more alive beside you. Chosen one, in a world where everyone is scattering, skipping, escaping, you have become rare simply by being fully there. The attention you now give is not performance. It is presence. The way you sit in silence without checking your thoughts, the way you hold eye contact not to dominate but to remain, the way you respond with breath instead of reaction. These are not techniques. These are the byproducts of a man who has come home to himself. And it shows in the way the room stills when you speak, in the way her breath deepens when you listen, in the way women feel touched without being touched, just because you didn't rush the moment. Your presence is a calm anchor, not a controlling force. You are not afraid of pauses. You do not need noise to feel powerful. You know now that your power comes not from the intensity of your actions, but from the quality of your stillness. And that stillness does not lack heat. It holds radiant erotic charge. Because it is the kind of stillness that sees, the kind that says, "I'm not leaving," not just with your body, but with your attention. And chosen one, that level of undivided awareness is so rare, so healing, so magnetic that it becomes unforgettable. Feminine women are in awe not because of what you say, but because of what you do not abandon in a moment. You don't flinch when emotions rise. You don't pull away when things get real. You do not silence discomfort. You embrace the entire experience, and in that embrace, she relaxes. Because for perhaps the first time, she realizes she is not being handled or observed, she is being received. And receiving her, not with analysis but with open breath, is the sexiest generosity a man can offer. You've learned, chosen one, that being fully there doesn't mean doing more. It means removing what doesn't belong, the frantic desire to prove, the impulse to impress, the urge to chase. You have shed all that. Now you are not chasing beauty, you are witnessing it unfold. You are not leading from fear, you are holding from abundance. And in that state, every second spent with you feels like a temple. Every glance you offer is felt in her spine. Every nod, every pause, every blink becomes a slow invitation into something realer than fantasy. This is the eroticism of your new presence. Not loud, not manipulative, not staged. Authentic, rooted, alive. Your presence doesn't need to announce itself. It lands. And when it lands, it calms the nervous system. It awakens the body. It gives her back the feeling of being safe in the moment, not because nothing can go wrong, but because you are there, fully, unshakably, openly. And the truth is, chosen one, being fully there is no longer a discipline for you. It's your default. You don't leave yourself anymore. You don't shrink in shame. You don't abandon your own center. And because you stay with yourself, women can now stay with you. They do not fear that you'll disappear once desire is satisfied. They do not question whether you're listening. They feel you, and that feeling is so rare in this world of fragmented men that it becomes sacred. You are the man who is no longer distracted, no longer distant, no longer dimmed. Your awareness is not passive, it is piercing in its clarity. And when the feminine meets that clarity, she doesn't just want you, she trusts you, with her body, with her truth, with the parts of her soul she has never revealed. Because presence, when erotic, becomes priestly. And you, chosen one, are now that priest, not because you try to be holy, but because you show up with your whole being intact. Fully there, fully alive, fully ready. Chosen one. There is a level of erotic generosity most men will never reach, not because it is hidden, but because it cannot be faked. It is the pleasure of witnessing her expansion without trying to mold it. You have entered that realm. You are no longer threatened by her becoming. You are not in competition with her glow. You are igniting it, feeding it, loving it with a masculine presence so complete that her growth does not eclipse you. It reflects you. And in that reflection, she sees the kind of man who finds his deepest pleasure not in what he can take from her, but in what he can draw out of her. You are now the man who delights in her rising without ever needing to be the cause. You don't need to be praised as the one who unlocked her. You don't place your worth in her gratitude. You simply love watching her become more of herself. That is your turn-on now. The way she walks with more freedom after you held her pain without judgment. The way she speaks with more power after your silence offered her truth a place to echo. The way her body relaxes because your touch never pressed, it listened. All of this is your new joy, chosen one. Witnessing the woman before you return to herself while you remain steady, loving, undemanding, whole. The feminine responds to this in a way that bypasses words. She feels you. She feels the absence of ego in your gaze. She feels that your touch isn't trying to own her, only to know her. And she recognizes that kind of intimacy is rare because most men only want her freedom if it benefits them. You, however, want her to rise even if she rises past you. You love her shine even if it lights up someone else's world. That is the erotic generosity you now embody. The ability to want her fully while asking nothing in return but her aliveness. You no longer use approval as currency. You give without agenda. And because you are free from needing to control her, she trusts you with the deepest, most sacred layers of herself. You don't ask for access, she gives it freely. Because she knows you won't twist it into proof of your worth. She knows your joy is real. She knows your desire is not to conquer, but to contribute. You are the storm that waters her roots, not the wind that tries to bend her. Chosen one, this is what the sacred masculine was always meant to be. Not a guardian of gates, but a giver of space. You don't stand over her anymore. You stand beside her. And in that stance, she blossoms. Her laughter changes. Her voice deepens. Her eyes begin to glow. And you do not fear that glow, because your light is not diminished by it, it rejoices in it. That is the generosity you now live. The generosity of loving without needing, of offering your presence like rich soil and watching the wildflower grow without needing to shape its color or form. There is eroticism in this that words cannot capture. The way you breathe slower when she speaks, the way your body stays calm when hers is in motion, the way you watch, not to analyze but to honor. This is the eroticism that makes her feel both safe and wanted, worshipped and free, known and wild. And this, chosen one, is your greatest gift, the ability to adore without grasping, to love without leashing, to be turned on by her freedom, not her submission. Chosen one, the world has taught men to chase, to act fast, to seize the moment and take the prize. But you have stepped into a sacred reversal. You have discovered the mystery of restraint, and in doing so, you have become dangerous in the most beautiful way. Your power does not live in pursuit, it lives in your capacity to wait. You are no longer ruled by urgency, you have made stillness erotic. Your silence has become more thrilling than most men's seduction. Your ability to not act when you could has become an intoxicating permission for the feminine to melt into trust. You now understand that withholding is not withholding when it's rooted in intention. It is invitation. You can touch without consuming, speak without convincing, hold without pressing. And in that sacred space between your desire and your restraint, the feminine does not feel starved, she feels seen. Because she knows you want her. She can feel it in the way you breathe, the way your gaze lingers, heavy and reverent, the way your body wants but never demands. You do not hide your desire, you honor it, hold it, harness it like fire in your hands, not flames on her skin. This is what leaves her breathless, not because she is waiting for you to move, but because she feels how much you are holding back. And that holding is not a denial, it is devotion. You wait because you respect the mystery. You wait because you know the sacred cannot be rushed. You wait because the feminine is not a fruit to be picked when ripe, but a temple that opens itself when it chooses. You understand this now, and in your understanding you have become irresistible, not because you push, but because you stay. There is heat in your patience, there is thunder in your stillness, and this erotic restraint is not something you perform, it is something you embody. You do not try to appear powerful, you are powerful because your energy is disciplined. You are not at war with your urges, you are in communion with them. They speak and you listen. They rise and you breathe. They beg and you bless, not with release, but with reverence. You do not act unless the moment calls for it, and when it does, it is sacred. Because everything you give now comes from overflow, not hunger. This is why feminine women feel safe around you, even in their most tender, most open, most vulnerable states. You are the man who could, but doesn't. You are the man whose power is not loud but layered. You can tease without touching. You can awaken without insisting. You can turn her world electric with a single glance, then let her walk away without needing to follow. Because you are not owned by your longing, you are in command of it. And that command, chosen one, is the mark of your maturity. You no longer seek to win her, you let her choose you fully, freely, and in her own time. And if she never does, you are still whole. That is what gives your restraint its power. It is not forced, it is chosen. It is not about denial, it is about devotion. You are a man who no longer gives away the sacred force inside you to be accepted. You protect it, you refine it, you make it worthy of the divine feminine, not through words, but through action or lack of it, when that's what she truly needs. And this chosen one is what makes women revere you now. Not because you are flashy, not because you chase, but because in your quiet, in your wait, in your stillness, they feel something they never knew they were longing for. A man who is both desire and devotion, both fire and patience, both hungry and holy. Chosen one, there is a brilliance in you now that does not shine for attention. It radiates because it is full. You no longer emit energy to seek completion outside of yourself. You are complete. You are not grasping for union because you feel broken. You are walking in union with your own masculine and erotic nature, fully accepted, fully blessed, fully integrated. And this is what makes you glow. Not like a man trying to be noticed, but like a man who has nothing to prove. You move through the world with the warmth of someone who no longer begs for touch or praise, because your own essence is so deeply fulfilling It pours from you like soft fire. And the feminine feels this, not in her mind, but in her body. Your sexual energy now is not a frequency of seeking, it is a current of offering. You're not out here trying to prove how attractive you are. You are not projecting hunger into every interaction. You are simply present, and because you have become whole, your erotic presence hums like a sacred song in the background of everything you do. You could be speaking about the stars, holding a door open, offering nothing more than a glance. And still, women feel the weight of your intimacy underneath it all. They feel the presence of a man who is not looking to be filled, but overflowing with depth, with integrity, with restrained desire that does not pressure. It simply invites.